As you know from our Part 1 materials, while there can be a number of definitions of communication, we are choosing one that keeps the essential elements of communication in front of us and ready for us to make the most of. Communication is a symbolic, interpretive, powerful process of making meaning that creates our realities. Communication is a symbolic, interpretive, powerful process of making meaning that creates our realities. Communication is a process because it has steps and it's always changing. When you look at an illustrated model of the transactional communication process, please find the label parts and steps and learn how they work. Eventually, you'll be able to recognize the parts and steps in the communication that creates your own reality. Ideally, this will help increase your understanding, effectiveness, and maybe even your happiness. The process involves the sender, sometimes called a speaker, the person who imagines, creates, and sends the message by encoding it into words, using grammar, punctuation, gestures, pronunciation, tone of voice, and more, that the receiver can make sense of or decode. For example, we can decode a message when it is in the language or code that we speak and understand: English, Spanish, American Sign Language, and many more. Depending on how the receiver reacts or gives feedback, the sender can respond with clarification or supporting information. For example, if a receiver looks puzzled or seems to be falling asleep or checking their phone, or if their eyes are wide and look fascinated, these represent feedback that not only qualify as feedback on the sender's message, but this feedback also represents messages in their own right. We can decode this receiver feedback. We can interpret it, make meaning from it. If someone we are talking to is falling asleep, we can decide whether to keep talking or clarify our messages or something else. Note that message and feedback can happen at the same time, making both participants simultaneously senders and receivers. The channel is the way that the message is delivered. For example, face-to-face, phone, text messages, handwritten letter, etc. A channel may also be referred to as a medium. The plural of medium is media, and you may be familiar with mass media, technology used to deliver messages to many people at once. Some media are richer than others. For example, when we are having an in-person conversation, we can see gestures, hear tone of voice, maybe even smell or touch our conversation partner. Thus, speaking in person is considered to be a richer medium or channel than texting. Communication always happens in some context, which includes the setting, such as home, office, school, etc., and with expectations that may be cultural or generational. For example, we talk differently to our grandma than to our buddies, and we behave differently in the classroom than in the video arcade, at least usually. Noise, sometimes called interference, can come from any source. Noise is anything that interferes with the making of shared meaning. It can be car horns, other people talking, or your own hunger or stress that interferes with your ability to listen. I have just described the transactional communication model. We call it transactional because it has many things going on at the same time. That is, communication is not just information flowing in one direction. It is also not just speakers taking turns. It's happening simultaneously. Imagine two people who both act as senders and receivers. One is talking while she's watching the other person's facial expressions. There are all kinds of internal and external noise, but the sender and receiver are making shared meaning as well as they can in whatever context they are in. This model can help us analyze communication situations in surprising ways. For example, Let's say you are in a class where your teacher likely is considering herself the sender and the students the receivers. Suddenly your classmates, Susie and George, seem to have a side conversation going on, and you hear rustling as they pass something back and forth. For the teacher and many of the students, Susie and George are the noise. The teacher stops lecturing and asks Susie and George, "What's up?" Susie answers, "George has a big bag of M&Ms and I was really hungry, so I asked him for some." While Susie and George were the noise, they were also the senders and receivers who were creating their own shared meaning. To them, it is possible that the teacher was the noise. This is not to say that side conversations in class are a good idea. However, it can be revealing to use models of a process to creatively analyze what's going on in any particular place, and sometimes to reduce misunderstandings and even empower us to navigate difficult situations. Communication is a symbolic, interpretive, powerful process of making meaning that creates our realities.